Hey, we're here at the Whole 9 Yards at our first ever sidewalk sale, and it also gives me an opportunity to do everything outside, which I love. And I thought I would do a dining room chair bench project and show you how to take it apart and put it back together. And the first thing I want to tell you is when you take your screws out of your pieces, don't lose them. I like to wrap mine in some paper or tape them to the piece if I have to come back to it. But if you lose these, not a happy day. One of the most important parts when you're working with upholstery is when you're working with your staple puller. So your inclination is going to want to be lean in to get these out, but if you miss your staple, you'll go into your hand. So always keep your pressure behind, your hand behind, your support hand, and you'll take these out without any great personal injury, which is the point. Alrighty. In order to know how much fabric you need for your project, take a tape measure and go underneath it, wrap, and come over the sides. So here's 0. And I'm going all the way over to 30 inches because I'm using extra fabric, which I'll later trim. But your hand needs to have something to hold on to pull, which you'll see later. So 30 inches wide, no problem. Most fabrics are 54, so we know we can fit it in the width. And then the other way is going under this way, 0 here. So it looks like 5/8 of a yard will be plenty. And from there, I would say we need to know which pattern we're going to use in case we have to center something, which might change a little bit of how much fabric we need. This is Dacron batting, which you have your foam first, and it's however thickness that you want. The Dacron batting wraps over it and staples, starting in the center, working our way out, which I'll show you. The thing about the Dacron batting is when you staple it on there and you go to the other side and you pull, you want to feel the fibers kind of separating a bit, and then you stop. That's about how tight you want to go. And then you work to the corners and it will be all puffy. But that's no problem because you're going to go back and cut it off just pretty much close to the board and it will flatten out. The reason we use Dacron batting is it makes these edges nice and smooth and also protects the fabric and the foam from abrasing each other and just wearing out that much sooner. And it just makes it overall much prettier. In taking this apart, the old one, I realized that the way this one had been done had a skirt that I had put trim on and then put this on top with the fabric. So I'm not going to be doing that on this next one, I don't think, but I thought I would take the opportunity to show you this is how you put on cord between the cushion and the skirt. So let's see, the right tool would be good, our staple puller, our hand being behind, of course. But what I had done, this is just taking it apart, but just to show you, so there's the cord comes with a lip. That's called a lip. You put that on after you've put on your skirt, and then you staple that on. And then when the cushion goes on, it looks like it's sewn in or however, but it's nice and clean. So that's just for future reference. If you want to do your project and put a trim between the cushion and the skirt, that's the way you do it. So once you've decided design-wise what you want to put on your piece, we lay the fabric down on the wrong side, out, of course. And the other thing that's so cool is I wanted to mention you never know what funky pieces can turn into something fabulous. And when we were taking this old piece apart, we found out that it was from the Bon Marché in Seattle from 1948, which is so cool. Just makes me love it all the more. Okay, so when you put your piece down, you want a pattern like this, you want a center. So I'm going to be playing with moving this around, getting it to, square pretty well, but I'll also show you how you kind of fix that. Now here, if I square it amongst these guys, there's not enough here. So I've got to move it down to another center that will let me have plenty of extra. Never worried about having too much extra because we can always cut it off. In the fabric world, having too much fabric is not a problem. Not enough fabric can be a problem. So I'm tweaking this, looking at that outside line. patient. That looks good. That looks good. Okay, so then after I have it this way, I want to make sure I've got enough here. Now this is, you know, could do in a pinch, but like why struggle when I got so much fabric to work with? So I'm going to move it down so I have lots to be able to grip on. That's a real important part. I know that I've got these three to work with to center, and I want to make sure I have plenty going this way, and I want to make sure I've got plenty going this way. So I've got all this extra fabric, so there's no reason to be laboring this much. So I'm going to cut off some extra now to make life easier, and I'm going to have plenty coming here. I'm going to have plenty coming here. So I'm going to use these convenient lines to cut that off. Be bold, don't worry. Once you got it, go for it. Okay.
Go.
Okay, so once you found your fabric and you've cut it so that you've given yourself plenty of extra to go around, you might be concerned about the centering. You can use a tape measure to kind of measure that out. I eyeball a lot, which can be great. It's great for me, drives other people a little nuts, but it works for me every time. So as I see, what I'm doing is just kind of pulling this up, giving myself an idea of how that will go. But so I'm stretching a little bit just to look at my lines, and I'm good. Okay, then you've got a stripe. In the case of a stripe, of course, you don't want it to go wonky. So, you know, I know it's looking good here, and I'm pulling it over. This is what's crucial. What you want to do is always start by stapling your center, and then from here to here. And once you've done that, you're going to flip it over and see that it looks square. So instead of putting 50 staples on and then checking, check as you go after the first 4, and then when you go back to staple, you always go on either side of those center staples and you work the tension to your corners. Because if you've ever stretched a canvas for painting, it's the same concept, but basically you want to stress the fabric evenly. And if you do it by you don't want to do like all these and then all these, because the fabric hasn't had a chance to kind of pull evenly in all directions, and it will go so much smoother if you do it this way. Okay, so let's start this project here. I'm going to start by pulling in my center, stapling down, coming to the other side. In this case it's small, so I can just swing it around. Now I'm going to pull a nice taut but not ripping pull, but I can feel the tension on it a little bit. And I'm going to move on my outside here, pull. It's much easier to take out 1 or 2 staples than 10 if you make a mistake. So I like to check a lot. So I'm pulling this, and I'm going to flip it around. See, with my start looks good. I'm thinking I want to make sure that I keep my tension going this way so it doesn't kind of wonk over. And also, you see how this is pulled down? That's going to end up being perfect once it's all done. That will be an even tension.